Hello, and welcome to this week's edition of the Stories Behind the Stories for our April 8th paper of the Neepawa Banner Press. And it's another good full paper. I'm your host this week, Casper Wehrhahn, writer, photographer, and archivist for the Neepawa Banner Press. And I'm here this week with Kira. Kira, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for being here too.
Can't have the show with just one person.
No,
well, you can, but it's a lot of work to carry it by yourself.
Yeah.
I'm sure Ken can do it, but I don't think I could do it.
We're not quite as long-winded as Ken, let's just say that.
We don't talk as much in the office. But yeah, we have another good paper to go through, and we're starting off right on the front page. As always, a good place to start with a nice little cow photo that I got to take. I was very proud of this photo. It's right here. Very good. You can get a better picture of it, of course, if you pick up a hard copy of the paper. These cows really just kind of worked with me here, Kira. I was at the Red Angus by the Beef bull sale, I believe it's called. I have the title there somewhere. And I got to take a look back at all the cows in the back room there at the egg complex here in Neepawa. And yeah, lots of big cattle there. Very, very beefy lads in there.
Very beefy bulls,
yeah.
yes.
And yeah, a lot of them were very curious about like the people walking around and what I was doing. They're just like, what is this like weird contraption you're pointing at us? And yeah, these two just both looked at me like exactly at the same time. It was so funny.
That's perfect.
So I was very thankful for their cooperation. I can get that shot from them. And there was actually another one, and I didn't get a picture of it really. Well, I did, but it was blurry. It didn't turn out.
No.
I should have tried putting it in sport mode, but I was only really taking a photo because I thought it was funny. But there's this one bull in there that was very clever, very, very clever, and knew what the latch was on the gate. So it was like looking at it, trying to grab it. Unfortunately for him, it wasn't one that could open. It had the flip down on both sides.
Okay.
So it was really just there to keep it together. It couldn't open, it couldn't do anything. But it's just like, I know what this is. I'm gonna get out and explore.
A little escape artist.
Sorry, my guy. That one doesn't work.
It's worth a try.
Yeah, Ken was there actually at the bull sale as well, and I wasn't in the back room there when it happened, but he was talking about it in the office, and he actually had a similar experience with probably a different bull or maybe the same one, but on the different side of the pen that actually had one that could open. But one of the bulls actually did get a latch open and was like starting to poke its head out. And I was just like, no. Pushed it back in, closed the gate. But it was a very well attended event from the looks of it. Bleachers were very full. And the bids were flying like crazy. Like everything was going by so fast. Yeah. I know they, in past events, have walked the bulls around the area there in the front. But they didn't do that this time, and I don't know if they did it last time either.
No, for the last few years, these guys in particular, I think, have just been doing the video for the auction part of it, but they have their animals in the back so people can see them. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, it was very, very busy. Bids were flying, and the highest one was actually like $15,000, almost $16,000 for one bull, which is just incredible to me. Like that blows my mind.
He must have been a real stud, that guy.
Yeah. Must have been. Like there was a few bids I remember hearing, and they were like really really up there, but that was the top one.
Yeah.
And the lowest, I know you got the number there from the website, is like around 3,000 for the one, but a lot of them were very high, and only one got passed up on. So they did really well at that sale.
Yeah. Yeah, they I know that Jas Red Angus, they typically do a pretty good job at their sales. I have been to a few in the past, and this is, I think, their 18th annual one. So they've done it quite a few times. They kind of know how it goes, and they make sure they look after their customers, and they make sure they look after the animals, and it always goes really smoothly. So that's good. I think that if that bull had gotten out, I don't think it would have been a big disaster. He probably just would have wandered around to say hi to everybody, because they always have animals that are very temperamental, not temperamental, very friendly, and just very kind of calm and agreeable. And like I've never seen one that's been in a bad mood at that sale.
Yeah, I can definitely agree. I mean, I think that was the first one that I went to, but yeah, they were all like very well tempered when I was taking a look back there. Very, very sweet cows. And it's just fun, like, watching them call out the numbers and stuff, and the people, like, on the floor there watching for the bids, and they're yelling and stuff and pointing. Very, very fun.
There's lots of action.
Yeah. And speaking of action, we actually have a big development happening in our coverage area here. Not in Neepawa, but actually over in Carberry. It's a fairly long-standing business, as I understand it, but Falk Pharmacy has actually sold to Super Thrifty as of April 1st, which, I mean, strange date to do a sale on, but no, this is not an April Fool's joke. It has sold, and for anyone who's not familiar, Jason Falk had started working with Dennis McMillan as a pharmacist in Carberry, and had purchased the business from him, and that made it Falk Pharmacy, and it's been in the family since then. But that has now sold, and they're actually, the family and I think some of the other employees as well, or all of them, are going to be working with Super Thrifty. So they'll still be in the pharmacy business, most likely. But it just won't be Falk Pharmacy anymore. And for the Falk family, at least, that's because they're going to be moving to Brandon for a few different reasons, I believe it was. I don't have them highlighted here. But another Carberry person will actually be taking over as manager of the Super Thrifty location in Carberry. That is Alana Bailey. I apologize if I mispronounced the first name there. I know there's a few different ways you could say that. But she has a good background there for her education. So definitely take a look at that. And I hope she'll do well taking care of the business in the future.
Yeah. And I hope that people will still feel at home at the pharmacy, even if it has a different name and different managers, because it'll still be the local Carberry pharmacy, right? I've never actually been to a Super Thrifty, so I don't know what their atmosphere is like, but I imagine because it's a small town, it's going to be managed by a local person, that it's probably going to still have that local feel.
Absolutely, and that's always a great thing to have, because, you know, it just feels, you're like more comfortable shopping in places that kind of feel like home, you know? So.
Well, and especially when it's a pharmacy, and some of the purchases you make there are a little bit more personal. So you definitely want to be comfortable where you shop when you're looking for pharmacy type stuff.
Absolutely. And we should quickly mention, I was going to segue to a different story here, but we should quickly mention, since we're on the same page anyway.
Which is page 2, by
page
the way.
Page 2, yes. But the town of Neepawa held a meeting recently in regards to its financial plan. So those details have been revealed. And we have all those in great detail on page 2 there, courtesy of Owen. Thank you, Owen, for covering that. And they're going to have a general operating fund of just under approximately like 17 million? Yeah, 17 million. So big number there. And they are going to be having a public hearing about their financial plan on April 19th at the council chambers in the municipal building, starting at 6:30. So if you want to get in on that, be sure to do that, because that is something very important to attend to if it pertains to you, or maybe just if you're interested in this sort of thing. I think that's all there really is to say on that, aside from, take a look at the numbers, see what the scoop is, pick up a hard copy of the paper. There's always so much to go through.
Yeah, we can't give away all our secrets on this show, otherwise you wouldn't read the paper.
Absolutely. And we'd be here for a much longer time.
Well, yes, that too.
But moving on, we have some other great stuff to hear, and that is actually in regards to the Neepawa Public Library. And it's my understanding that they haven't really been able to be open a whole lot throughout the pandemic, but that is changing, and they're actually getting back to some events, aren't they?
Yes. Yeah, I believe that they have been able to be open for the last few months anyway, but I know that there were large chunks of time during the pandemic where they actually had to be completely closed, and they had kind of figured out ways to do kind of remote checkout type stuff. But now they're back to open, and now that they've been open for a little while and kind of getting used to how things are going to run, they're going to be able to do some more events in the building, because they had programming there before, and had events and group things before the pandemic happened, but they haven't really been able to do that since. So I talked to Debbie Unger, she's the branch manager at the Neepawa Library, and she was very excited to be able to get some of the stuff back in. They're going to have story time for the preschool aged kids. Canadian National Film Day is coming up this month, so they're going to be celebrating that with a Canadian made film. They have their author series coming back. Debbie said that they usually try to kind of get a local Manitoba author in once a month if possible. During non-pandemic times, that's what they kind of did, and that's what she's hoping to get back to again. So they've got one scheduled for April 27th. She's an author from, now where was it? She was from Gilbert Plains, Manitoba. And she wrote a book she had the book published maybe a year ago or so, and Debbie had been talking to her and wanting to get her, and then the pandemic hit, and then she couldn't get her in, so they'd just been kind of waiting to be able to get this author in. So now they're finally able to get her in. Some people have checked out this book already from the library, so there's going to be some that have already read this book and will be fans that can come and get their books signed, and that kind of thing. So that's really exciting. As well, a new initiative they started this year at the library was a nonprofit feature. Every month they're featuring a different nonprofit organization from within the Neepawa community. They featured things like the Roxy Theatre, the Beautiful Plains Museum. This month they're featuring the Beautiful Plains Horticultural Society, so the gardening people. The Horticultural Club has supplied some seeds that people can get free samples of garden flower and veg seeds. There will be a prize. If anybody checks out a book from their garden display, then they will be entered to win a prize at the end of the month. So there's lots of great things happening at the library, and it's just really exciting that they're going to be able to do stuff again, because it's just been so long that everything has just been so dead, right?
Yeah, it's definitely been a lot quieter. It's been a lot harder to track down story stuff sometimes, because there's not as much happening. More stuff happening recently, but it's had that lull because of the pandemic and whatnot. But definitely for the library especially, it's just nice for them to be able to do stuff again, because libraries are a very important part of the community for several reasons, even just aside from like the book services that they offer. Like, you can just go in and check out a book and not have to worry about it, and then of course the computer services that they supply to, because not everybody may have a computer, and then stuff like this, like they're always looking for ways to be connected to the community and bring stuff to the community, and just bring these really awesome things to it and show other stuff that they have to offer. So I'm very, very excited for them to be able to do this stuff again. And stuff like just the author thing, for example, like that stuff is so cool. You bring in like these people that could be local or from other places, and they like talk about the books or whatever, or they give a presentation of like some little behind the scenes type things, or get autographs and whatnot. It's really cool.
Yeah. Have you been? Did you go to the Gordon Goldsboro one?
Yes. Yeah. And I actually had been to one of his presentations before that, I believe. But he kind of switches things up between every presentation to keep it fresh for himself as well. But, if there's repeat visitors too, because, it really is just such a fascinating topic that he covers, because it's like abandoned buildings in Manitoba and other stuff that's like maybe disappearing or different Manitoba history things that are really cool to learn about. And yeah, there's just like so much in that topic that you can cover. So it was very cool, and I was very happy that they were able to get him in for that.
That's awesome.
Our next thing up here is actually some more positive changes, positive changes or developments. I'm not super into the sports things, so I don't remember if this had a previous name. It probably did. But the Niverville Nighthawks are unveiling their logo, and we actually have that on page 12. I don't remember if this is color in the full version of the paper. I believe it is. Yeah. So you will be able to see the logos, both logos, in color if you pick up the full paper here. But it's... yeah, they've been doing the work, and they got their logos finally ironed out. It was done by the same person that did the Neepawa Titans, right?
Yeah, the rebrand for the Neepawa Titans. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so they got a sort of similar professional feel to them, because it's the same person that did it. And they really just sort of go through here, I believe, in the story, and like the reasons for like why they chose things, and the colors, and it sounds like they're very, very happy with it, and it is a very bold design.
Yeah, it looks really cool. It's very unique. I don't think I've seen one similar to that before, and it's really exciting for the Niverville Nighthawks, because they only just announced like in the past year or so that they were going to have a new MJHL team, so they had kind of been keeping it under their hat, like what the logo, what the name and stuff was going to be. They were just kind of the Niverville MJHL hockey team until they actually announced what they are. So yeah, very recently they announced the logo, the name, and the colors, the jerseys, and all that kind of thing. And pretty soon people will be able to see them when they're playing against the Neepawa Titans in that league next year. I think they start. So that's pretty exciting for the community of Niverville. I know that's not really in our coverage area, but it does affect our area a little bit, just because that's a new team that the Neepawa Titans will be playing, and they are in our area. So it's very exciting when you see that kind of a development and that expansion to the league.
Absolutely, yeah, and I hope that the team will be able to put together a good team, because it'll be very nice to have a new sort of rivalry developing here, and see the teams clashing together and try and wrestle for the top spot. And yeah, it just looks really good, so very well done. And I don't know, do you have thoughts? Tell us. We'll be happy to hear them.
Yeah, it's not our team, so you can rag on them if you want.
Yeah. And actually, speaking of changes and logos, there is another logo change that has happened, and we have that on page 19 of this paper. This one doesn't have to do with sportsing. It's actually completely unrelated to sportsing, unless by chance they happen to give money to a sportsing occasion. But this has to do with the Carberry Area Community Foundation. They have also been putting in work in regards to sort of revamping their logo. And they just got things out on April 7th. So right before we were going to go to print for this week, of course, we got things a little bit earlier because, well, today is the day that it would have been announced, the day of filming, April 7th. And, well, our paper has been printed already.
Yeah.
So that wouldn't have really worked out. So thank you to them for getting us that. Very much appreciated. And Kira, this was something that you worked on. You went and you got all the details. So tell us a little bit about this.
Yeah, so Brianna Renwick, she is the executive director for the Community Foundation in Carberry. And she actually reached out to me and emailed me. She's like, so we're unveiling this new logo right away. Is this something you might want to cover? I was like, yeah, sure. That's exciting. It's always cool when we get a little bit of a rebrand on an old, on a long-standing organization. So it was really exciting, and I so appreciated the fact that she was willing to send us all this stuff early before they announced it within the community, because sometimes organizations are a little bit hesitant to give us anything early. I don't know if they are unsure of like when we start circulation, or if they're just a little bit worried about Ken spilling the beans because he likes to talk a lot or something like that, right? So it was very great of her to be able to send it to us this week, because then we could get it out in the paper that starts circulation on the Thursday. And she had put this out on social media all over the place, on the internet and stuff, on the Thursday morning. So she was able to unveil it right before people would see it in the paper. So it's still really new, really fresh news, and I love that part. That's like my favorite part about the story.
Yeah, it's really awesome when we're able to do stuff like that, because it doesn't happen often.
No.
Like, we're a weekly paper, so, you know, it's the opportunities for this type of thing to happen is pretty few and far between.
Yeah. Usually we're a few days to a week behind on things. Like, people will announce something on a Thursday or Friday, so we don't get it into the paper till the next week. So, but yeah, no, and it's really exciting. Like, it's a really cool logo. It's got a similar idea to the one that they had before, but it's kind of a refresh. It's new, it's clean lines and simple. Brianna gave me kind of the rundown on what the different colors mean in it, kind of what it represents, and just the work that went into getting this together. They got input from the community and logo ideas and designs and stuff from community members, and kind of put it all together over the span of about a year. They started this project for part of their 25th anniversary last year, and they were kind of it was kind of put on hold for a little while because of the pandemic. They weren't able to meet up and discuss stuff and that kind of thing, but now they finally have been able to get it all together, and so Brianna was very excited to share that with us, and we're very excited to share that with you.
Absolutely, yeah. And there, like, it might not seem it to people sometimes, or you know, people just don't know how much work goes into these things, but it is a lot of work that goes into making things like logos. Like, you do a lot of different sketches and play with a lot of different colors, and you know, you just have to tweak a lot of things, and you know, show it to people, get feedback, and see what they say about it. Because, you know, you could do it up to look a certain way, and like, you see it that way, but maybe there's something else that already looks like that, or oh, well, I see this, or, you know, these colors don't really mesh well, or, you know, that sort of thing. So there's a lot of stuff you need to go through there on the creative process. But it turned out really well. It's a very simple logo, but, you know, it's very clean. The colors are nice. And, you know, it's going to be recognizable. You know, it's something that you could easily put on clothing or whatever you want if they were to do that. So yeah, it turned out very well. We still have some time, so we're going to flip to page 20 and just give a little shout out here to the Art and Curling Club, because they had their mixed bonspiel recently. That was actually from March 31st to April 3rd, and there were 20 teams competing. Now, I don't know how many teams usually compete in a bonspiel, but that is a lot to me anyway.
I know, it seems like a lot for Arden, although I know that Arden is a huge curling community, so it shouldn't surprise me, but it also does surprise me just because they are a very small community. So you think 20 teams and 4 people on each team, that's like 80 is my math right there?
I think so.
That's like 80 people right there. So it looked like a great turnout for sure.
Absolutely, yeah. And like I don't know if they had people in the stands. I'm sure they did. There's a lot of curling enthusiasts, so if they were able to, I'm sure they attended. But yeah, so those people, the winners are on page 20 there. We got some photos of them. And all the names are listed, so be sure to check that out. As well on page 20, just a quick shout out to someone else here as well. We have Kiana Gunnarsson-Epp of Neepawa has committed to ACC's women's soccer program. Now I admit I didn't have a chance to reread the story here, but very, very good work there. Congratulations on that. And we have a lot more stories in the paper, of course, that we didn't get to. A lovely comic from our producer here on page 19 as well. We've had some comics there in the past before. This one is in color. Our first color comic
Very
from
exciting.
Jeremy. Thank you very much again, Jeremy. And some more stories, of course. Lots more sportsing that we didn't get to. Some news about Dax Turner, Abby Kramer, a whole bunch more people like Brady Stange. Some more Tiger Hills Hockey League news, Minnedosa stuff as well. And of course we have our center spread, everything for your farm. That's an important thing to mention as well because, well, we just got a lot of great support on that again this year. And that's something that we're always thankful for because we do have a large farming community in and around Neepawa and of course throughout Manitoba. So this is definitely a very important center spread for us. And of course when we do our farmers advocates as well, that's very important. So. I think we still have a couple more minutes. Kira, is there any other stories that you would like to personally shout out?
Oh my goodness. I'm not really sure. A shout out to Casper for doing the looking back every week.
Oh yes.
You put a lot of work into that for sure. There's actually a really cute photo in this week's some local kids.
How could I forget? Yeah, we definitely should talk about that, shouldn't we?
Because those, like, some people might recognize those people because they're kind of in this generation, like in a generation that's alive right now is what I mean to say. Not from like 110 years ago. But yeah, so that's really cool. Do you have anything to say specifically about that?
We'll just actually mention quickly who one of the people there is. But it is actually someone who's quite famous from being from this area. One that I haven't really heard about a whole lot recently, but I'm sure that a lot of people are familiar with. It's actually Shane Knighty, and he was presenting a plaque from Wally's Jewelry, which is a business that I'm not familiar with either, but it existed here at some point, apparently. I guess, or in the area. It sponsored the events. But yeah, Shane was presenting a trophy from that company to a Grandview team after they won the A side of a 6-year-old tournament held at the Yellowhead here in Neepawa in 1982. So it was a team of a few different teams of like people around the age of 6, and they were all competing. I think it was hockey related. I'd have to reread that again, but I'm pretty sure that was correct. And yeah, there's a whole bunch of other good stuff in the looking back this week as well. Unfortunately, we don't have time to get into it because we do have to wrap up the show. I actually might be running very close here to our end time. But if you would like to get any stories, news tips into us, please do contact us at news@neepawabanner.com or 204-476-3401. And of course, for advertising, contact us at ads@neepawabanner.com. We'd be happy to hear from you either way. And once again, thank you for joining me and Kira on the show this week. We'll see you next time.